First things first, why the NBA put the draft lottery on a Sunday on Mother's Day?
That's a good question. I honestly have no idea.
I feel like usually the draft lottery feels like a massive day, right? It's in the middle of the week. It's in the evening. People are talking about this. I know this draft is not necessarily as sexy. There's no Victor Wembanyama going number one or something, but just throwing on a Sunday afternoon where, people may be having Mother's Day brunch, hanging out with mom. I'm sure some moms want to watch the lottery too, but my point is it's kind of weird to do it on a Sunday.
Yeah, I don't understand it, but just want to say thank you to all the moms for birthing all of these wonderful NBA players, because I had so much fun watching basketball today. As for the draft lottery, I don't get it. I don't care. It's a good excuse to maybe not hang out with certain family if you didn't want to be with certain family. If you wanted to just go watch a draft lottery instead, I'm sure they would understand.
Well, let's talk about this draft lottery. The Atlanta Hawks, who had a 3% chance of getting the number one pick, land the number one pick. They were 36-46, a 3% chance, and they land the number one pick. Where did the Sacramento Kings fall? Well, before this lottery, they were slated to pick 13th. They will be picking 13th in the NBA draft. Morgan, we are not going to pretend to be draft experts. During this whole process, what we like to do is talk to people who do know about the draft. But let's just start where the Kings are at. I think ideally they didn't want a first-round pick this year. They want to be in the playoffs, playing a playoff series, and then the pick would have gone to Atlanta. But look, you got the 13th pick in the draft now.
Yep.
I think when people talk about this draft, they act like there's no talent whatsoever. And I don't know why we continue to make this mistake with drafts where we dismiss it just because there's not like a generational talent at the top. Doesn't mean everything else is going to be bad.
Yep.
I feel like we've seen it in past drafts before where there will be opportunity to find a good player. We're watching the Nuggets tonight. Christian Brown.
Boom.
Was he a top 5 pick? No, but he is playing a significant role on a championship team.
Absolutely.
Derek Lively, drafted in the lottery last year by the Mavs, playing big minutes in the playoffs. So I think the Sacramento Kings will have an opportunity, if they keep the pick, to find a good player.
Well, that's the thing. You're even just talking about mostly role guys or whatever, right? You could go down the list and think about where some of these other guys were picked in the teens, from Giannis Antetokounmpo, Rudy Gobert. You look at Jokic, picked in the second round. We all know these stories, and we've all talked about all that. We get that there's a lot of luck involved as well. But at the same time, when you look at still being in the lottery and having one of these top 15 picks, there's going to be talent there that you can develop and that you can do something with. So I am hoping that is the direction that the Sacramento Kings can go with. But right now, as I take a step back, I'm not the draft expert, so I'm not going to sit here and say like there's so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so until I start talking to the experts this next week.
We don't have to talk to the experts to know that there's chances to find a good player. And just because there's not like a no doubt about it consensus number one or all these top 5 doesn't mean the rest of the draft is bad. And I think some of these experts who do pay attention go, there's actually a lot of depth in this draft. Like you can find a player who can help you. Morgan, this does not matter at all, but we do it every year anyway. Let's name some other players who were also drafted 13th in the NBA draft.
I love doing this.
Well, the Kings had the 13th pick one other time. Got to go back to the 90s. 1995, Morgan Reagan, when they drafted Corliss Williamson.
Wow.
Big Nasty. That's a good one. But let's start from last year. You got Grady Dick.
Okay.
2022, Jalen Duren. 2021, Chris Duarte. 2020, Kyra Lewis. 2019, Tyler Hero. Okay, pretty good. Then before that, 2018, Jerome Robinson. Okay, not nice. Utah Jazz in 2017, Donovan Mitchell. 2016, I lied, I skipped over it. The Kings had another one, and I think I skipped over it for a reason. Yorgos Papagiannis.
You did skip over that?
Oh, my God.
How could you ever forget and be nice?
He's killing it overseas.
There we go.
Shout out to Yorgos Papagiannis. 2015, Devin Booker. 2014, Zach LaVine. 2013, Kelly Olynyk. 2012, Kendall Marshall. 2011, Markieff Morris. The list drops off. Some other names that should be mentioned. Richard Jefferson, 2001. 1999, Corey Maggette. An old King, Keon Clark, was drafted 13th. Kobe Bryant, 1996, Morgan. 94, Jalen Rose. So obviously there's some talented players we just mentioned. We're talking about all-stars in there, some starters, some role players. The point is you can find talent in the middle of the draft. That is specifically just at 13. Doesn't mean 13 is going to be great this year, but there's always players in the draft.
There's always players in the draft, so don't be scared of that number 13, and hey, start looking.
Now, from a Kings perspective, they have some options here, and I think this is such a big offseason for the Kings. One, because of how stacked the Western Conference is. You didn't make the playoffs. You won 46 games and missed. How do you get back there, especially with how stacked the West is? The teams behind you getting better, like San Antonio, who has 2 picks in the top 8 in the draft. Houston having another pick. All these teams that are pushing. What's Memphis look like? So the Kings could like package that 13th pick with something else and maybe go get something. I'm kind of at this point, post-draft lottery on May 12th.
Yeah.
I think you keep the pick. I think you keep the pick for a couple of reasons. One, you could find someone that can help you. They would be on a rookie scale contract. Those things matter, especially in today's climate with the punishment you can receive with the apron penalties that we see some of these other teams in right now. Having a player on a rookie scale contract is good. I also don't think that you need to give that pick up to improve your team. I think you have other assets and you have future draft picks, in my opinion, that you could package up with those to make a move.
Yeah, because I'm curious what the 13th pick plus whatever could actually get you in a trade. Because if you're going to bet on something like that, it better be a piece that can actually move the needle and not just whatever. And I understand in that 13th spot, like you want someone who is NBA ready that can play right now. I get it. But there's also going to be some of that luck that comes involved when it comes to some of these draft picks. But if you have the correct talent evaluators doing their homework and going for the right people with that type of work ethic, with that type of mentality, and you believe that that's the direction you want to go with on that type of contract, then you go in that direction. I can't sit here confidently right now on May 12th and say, this is what you do. But I can veer in your direction of thinking.
Thanks for coming in my direction a little bit.
I'm veering.
Yeah, I started thinking too, like when you talk about type of player that the Kings could use at 13, it's like, where do you start? You know, you see some people go, hey, a backup big for Sabonis would be great. Okay. I keep going back to a guy who can be athletic, who's got length and can play some defense or defensive upside at the 4 spot, play some 3, a player who could defend multiple positions. You start talking about a guard, and I think some people go, no guards. You don't know what Malik Monk's future is either. So they could technically go that route too. I think they're going to have plenty of options, but for me, I'm like, I need some length on this team. And maybe it doesn't have to be at the 13th pick, but I'm looking around the landscape of the NBA, and I'm seeing all these teams who have that size and length up front that the Kings just lack.
You look at what the Kings lacked, especially against the Pelicans all year long, and you think about how the Pelicans had so much length. Then you go into this postseason, you go look at the T-Wolves, and you look at more length, right? I'm not just talking about big, girthy guys, not Cat, not Gobert. I'm talking about like McDaniels, and I'm talking about guys that you like, that have the wingspan and the defensive IQ to understand how to utilize their body and their length. And sure, we can sit here and paint out the picture of our perfect guy, but you look at where the NBA is shifting in the positionless and all these things, you got to make sure you can find someone that is capable of defending multiple positions.
I'm going to ask Kings fans for some help. In the comments below, if you've been paying attention to the draft, Drop who you love in this draft.
Ooh.
Tell us below who we should be watching.
Love it.
Let us know what you want to do, or let us know why you think they should trade the pick. Let us know in the comments below. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe.
Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. The pirate.